This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. The Cubs lose 14-6 to the Seattle Mariners. They lose Game 3 of the series. They lose the series. Tough outing again for the pitching staff. We're going to talk a lot about what we've seen from the staff over the last 4 days. Joe George here with you. You can find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Yeah, this is a bad game, again, for the pitching staff. Okay, so let's talk about this from a big picture perspective here from a second. Not just this game. Over the last 4 games, the Chicago Cubs pitchers have given up 38 runs in the 3-game series against the Mariners and the 1 game against the Brewers after the rainout. 38 runs, 14 in this game. Now, you can talk about the wind blowing out. Obviously, it helped the Cubs. We'll talk about the glass half full part of this for the offense after it, but 38 runs is a lot. And the thing with the Mariners is they didn't just do all of it with the home run, kind of like the Cubs offense did. They do a lot of more of the, the small ball thing. And what's frustrating about this game specifically today is who did the damage against the Cubs. That's why the Cubs lost this one today. It's not, yes, Cal Raleigh hit his 4th home run in 3 games, monster of a season that he's having, but they were getting guys on base, moving guys along, and using the long ball to help them in this one. In the last, couple games of this series, they weren't just relying on the home run. And that's where it's, okay, the Cubs pitching, yes, the wind's blowing out, but the pitching is just not good enough right now, the last 4 games. Now, so what does it mean? Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at this. There's the glass half full side of this, and it's just a couple of bad games, and they should get back on track. The pessimistic side and maybe more realistic side of this is that the Cubs pitching staff of recent success is, mostly benefited more from the weaker schedule, the wind blowing in a lot at Wrigley. And this is where when you have a lot of guys out there who don't have good swing and miss stuff, but have been good this year, whether it's in your bullpen or in your rotation, they're getting lit up on a day where the wind's blowing out or a series where the wind is blowing out. 38 runs in the last 4 games. It's terrible. We've talked a lot about on these shows about adding pitching. The Cubs need to add pitching. Even when the Cubs were having good pitching, when your bullpen was incredible over a 30-day stretch, when your starters were going out there, no matter who it was, and consistently putting out, good performances, there was always in mind, like you have to add pitching. You have to add at least 1 starter because you have Shota coming back this upcoming series versus the Cardinals. You need to add somebody to the front line of your rotation. There's never been a doubt about that. Your bullpen, you need to be able to go in there and add to that as well. While they've done well in the margins, you do think about this team from the big picture perspective. I think we've all thought they need to add. And this 4-game stretch is just an example of where the Cubs pitching can falter quickly. And it's hard not to look back against what happened earlier this season when there was 4 games earlier this year in which the Cubs bullpen gave up 8 runs or more in a game. One of those was by Ryan Presley himself. But so you've had these ebbs and flows with the pitching staff where either it's been really, really good or really, really bad. And there hasn't been much of a middle. And this, again, is one of those series where it was just very, very bad for the Cubs. So need to add pitching. There's not even a question about it. This is also a disappointing series. Now, again, super windy out there, whatever. But this was a disappointing series, I would say, collectively for the defense. There's a lot of underwhelming plays for this team, whether it's the ball that drops in front of Ian Happ in Saturday's game, the 2 errors by Seiya Suzuki in this game. Brujan was not good in the field. Honestly, like if he's going to be like your guy off the bench who's supposed to be able to play third and second base, it's not great out there. I think he looks okay at second base today, but like it's not. If you're there to be a defensive guy and not contribute offensively, you got to be pretty damn good on defense, and he just hasn't been these last 2 days. So I would just say collectively on defense, this was not a good series or stretch for the Cubs. The pitching was very, very bad. in this stretch. And yeah, this is disappointing because if you're like me and you're like, okay, the Cubs going into today had the best record in the National League. Like, yes, it sucks they lost the series. The best record in the National League by like 0.02 percentage points over the Dodgers. For the group of Cubs fans that that don't believe in this team, this is a W in your column this series, to be honest. Like, there's not much, argument to be made against what the Cubs have been doing against good teams versus bad teams. If you look at this last 4-game sample size as a strength of your argument, you get the victory on this one. I still think there's still a very good baseball team here, but I think it's also clear, like, you got to add, and you got to add quickly. This upcoming series, this 4-game series versus the Cardinals it's not a season maker or breaker, but it's pivotal because even if you're good over the next 7 days, the Brewers are playing very good baseball. Now, as we're doing this show live, they give up a massive lead at one point in this game. So I don't know for sure. They're at this point as they're live, they're still winning their baseball game. But this is where I would like to see Jed Hoyer, not an overreaction to this series, but go out there and it's time to start making some moves. It's just time. It is time to go out there and start making moves because the Milwaukee Brewers are a good baseball team. I'm not a believer in the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't think they're a real threat in this division like the Brewers are. I think the Cubs will easily, and the Brewers will both eventually pass them by. Frankly, I think the Cardinals are more likely to be sellers at this point at the deadline. Just my gut on how I view their team. But it would be nice I think it's time. You get Shota coming back. That starts the momentum of things, of changing, hopefully, things in a positive direction for the pitching staff. So I would like to see them make a move. Doesn't have to be all their moves right now, but you're getting close to being about a month away from the trade deadline. Like 40 days almost at this point, probably. I feel like it's time. It's time to see the Cubs make a move. You need help. Colin Ray, I think in a big way, is regressing, to where it was exciting. Like, what a steal you got for $5 million. A lot of that's gone. A lot of that for Colin Ray is gone. It feels like he has regressed back to where you expected him to be. Matthew Boyd's still been pretty good so far. Taillon's been, mostly good. Rough start his last one, obviously. But you need to add to this team. And I think this series is just an example of where they need to. They need to start adding to this team because the Brewers are right there. And if they win this game today that they're playing right now as we're live, they are going to be 3.5 games back in the division as you get ready for a 4-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, let's take a break here. Let's try to do a little glass half full. Talk about the offense here for a second. And the other side of this, and plus we'll talk more about the series against the Cardinals and your questions and comments live here in the chat on YouTube. All coming up next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to helping keeping you feeling fuller longer. We go with the no shell variety in our house. I don't like to have a mess. Also, again, these little bags, we like those as well in our house. So get stacking and get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The MLB season is heating up, and every game brings clutch hits, standout pitching, and unforgettable moments. From walk-off homers to no-hitters in the making, there's no shortage of drama on the diamond, and no better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If the Cubs pitching is going to keep looking like this, I'm going to look at the over every single game because the offense looks like it's turning around and the pitching's falling apart a little bit. So like the over, no matter what the number is, especially the next time they're at Wrigley Field. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so series coming up here against St. Louis. Shota Imanaga will return to this team. Very important to get him back. They need him. They need the extra guy there on the mound. Now, I'm still very curious what the corresponding move is going to be. I do think what you've seen from the bullpen of recent. My guess is Nate Pearson will be saying goodbye to his one-day stint with the Chicago Cubs, or I guess technically a two-day stint with the Cubs, and heading back down to the minor leagues, or DFA'd, I guess, at this point. And maybe we'll see one of these guys move back into the bullpen, whether that's Colin Ray or Ben Brown. I'm not sure which one of those two it would be, but I do feel like that's the move that we're going to see from the Cubs here once Shota is officially announced that he's coming back, is that you just move one of these starters into the bullpen. It's the easiest move, and frankly, it's the smartest move, because if you look at whether it was, Merriweather, Cabrera, Pearson, like that extra spot, like that last spot in the bullpen roster, that in the bullpen is not something that anyone has come in and taken. Honestly, not too surprised that that's happened. That's the last spot for a reason. So I think moving a starting pitcher just into that role, whether it's Colin Ray, who started the year in the bullpen, or it's Ben Brown, who, yes, at times has been very good, but also has been pretty shaky for most of his appearances this year. I'm curious what Craig Counsell will do, but I think that's the easy one. I think this is a good point here from the chat. I think commenter here says they think Ray has some value in long relief and as a spot starter. Yeah, I think so too. I think he does. The other two he's talking about were a comment about Nate Pearson and Ryan Presley. Yes, Pearson will not be on this team very long. Look, they supposedly worked on a bunch of stuff in the minors, but it's the minors for a reason. Pearson, to me, it's just like hard pass at this point. I would like to see Little come up at some point to give him a shot, frankly, versus Pearson being that guy. So we'll see what the Cubs do. Maybe we'll have a couple moves coming up here in the next couple days. Let's very quickly here try to look at a somewhat of a glass half full approach to the last four games, because obviously, again, the pitching's been a disaster. So glass half full here. While the Brewers and the Mariners scored 38 runs against you, the Cubs scored 27 runs in their last four games. Now, the difference is between what the Brewers and the Mariners did versus what the Cubs did. It was the Cubs is still largely based on the home run ball. It's still very feast or famine. They showed that stat that over the last 30 days, the Cubs are 70% of their runs are coming from the home run ball. That's not sustainable. That is not sustainable baseball. We all know it. It's that. But it's still positive. And the reason why it's positive is at least they're hitting the ball. Now, all of it's at Wrigley. The wind's blowing out. So that's why it's glass half full. Not all the way there yet. But hopefully this is the time where the offense can start to see a change and get to be back on track. Because if the pitching is going to fall down like this, the offense has to raise its level. It has to go back to what it was doing the first month of the season, where it was counterbalancing some of these bad performances from your starters in your bullpen, because it wasn't great all the time when Shota and Justin Steele and those guys were out there and your bullpen was giving up runs pretty consistently. We have to see that swing back, I think, for the Cubs to hang on to where they're at right now. The Brewers did win, it looks like. So the Cubs are going to be 3.5 games up in the NL Central right now. They'll fall to the second best record in the National League. But this is a disappointing one, this series. To see the Cubs pitching, give up that many runs, to not just be a victim of the long ball constantly. Yes, there was quite a few of them, obviously, in this series from the Mariners, but it wasn't all like that. You got to get back on track for the pitching staff. You got to win 3 of 4, I would say, from the Cardinals. I guess a split's okay, but really, you got to start going, because as someone here points out in the chat, 77 Chi-Town Cubs fan here, Brewers' next 6 games are against the Pirates and Colorado. Asked, do I see the Brewers overtaking the lead of the Cubs in the next 6 days? I mean, you're up 3.5 games. If you go, even if you go 4-3 over the next 7 days against the Cardinals and the Astros, that's probably a 5-1 stretch from the Brewers, where you might only be, a game and a half game up at that point. So it's definitely possible. To be honest, the Cubs have to win games against the Cardinals. Really, 3 out of 4, and they take 2 out of 3 against the Astros. This is an important stretch coming up where the Brewers' schedule is much easier and the Cubs is tough. So you got to get this thing going back in the right direction. Hopefully, Shota Imanaga will be the thing, and hopefully, this series that we saw from the offense, is a sign of things to come. Still need the small ball stuff to kind of come back in the way that it was earlier in the season. Walks, stolen bases. That identity has really been lost by the Cubs in the last month and a half of the season. So got to get back to what they were doing better before. Or the people who are very worried about where the Cubs are standing might be right here in a short amount of time. I think the Cubs will keep it going, or get this thing back on track in the way that we expect them to, but they also might be wrong about this one. So we will wait and see. That will do it for this episode of the Locked On Cubs Postcast. You can find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Back tomorrow after Game 1 of the Cubs and Cardinals series. Thanks for watching. Talk to you tomorrow.